Welcome back. Smooth and Crypto. I'm your host, Maxwell Smooth. We are blessed and honored to have Cryptographics, the owner slash producer slash founder of Torus. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. It's been a while coming. We've kind of been on streams, peripherally together, but now we finally get to chat. Flare, Torus, TitanX, just you and I. So this is gonna be fun, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I think it's been a long time coming. I was watching, I've been in Pulse Chain, still have Pulse Chain assets, this and that, but I've been watching your stuff for a long time. So it's kind of full circle for me. And the fact that, we can jump on a stream together and have a good conversation is really bullish in my opinion.
Oh man. And this stream's going to be bullish. So if you're watching this, get ready. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, we're in a kind of crazy time in the market, in my opinion. TitanX has been having some little ups, little downs, in my opinion. It's great buying opportunities, not financial advice, but anything right around that 605, I've just been gobbling up, man. And it's at the end of the day, this is something that's going to be on autopilot, with just burning and burning and burning, and the price floor is going to level out where it level out. We don't know what it's going to do, and it's inevitable with the only things we really do know: fair, safe, and hyperdeflation. That's really what we got going on. So what do you think about the current market right now for TitanX?
I mean, it's kind of in this little, it's in a funny place because a lot of people, I think, are still uncertain. Yet when you look at how the numbers are lining up, when you look at the supply pinch that's going on, like what was it, 0.15% per day is being burned to the supply. We're down to like 46 or 7% of the supply. Maybe it's even 45. No, I think it's 46 or 7% of the total supply of 220 trillion is only left. And we haven't had Flare hasn't come out yet, which is going to be a massive TitanX burner. Torus hasn't come out yet, massive TitanX burner. You have a bunch of other protocols that are coming out still. And so this moment in time where we have these like 605, maybe even a little bit lower, you never know. This is going to be, we're going to look back at these days and be like, man, that was a gift. And if we didn't take advantage of it, too bad, so sad, man. It's always sketchy to say this might be the last time we ever see these prices because how crypto works. But it wouldn't shock me if this is one of the last or the last times we come back to this range. And that is just so bullish for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we've seen right now is with these prices has been a ton of buy pressure from all the protocols and burning pressure. I mean, the lower the price goes, the more tokens that are being burnt. So it's like kind of a give and a take, right? Sometimes the price goes lower, but we're burning a crap ton. And if the price goes up, we're burning less. So it's like, I think it's a great spot. Like Jake says, the computers are taking over, right? And this is the time that they are, like you said, burning a decent little chunk and every single day, no matter what. Programmed in every single day. So it's wild.
Well, and here's the thing too, is like the machines are basically on idle for the most part right now. When you really start to go in and you look at what's going on under the surface, like X28 as a mechanism is like one of the most powerful possible things you could put on TitanX to burn the supply. And it's basically just been turned on. It's like, okay, this exists now. We're just going to let it idle at the lowest possible RPMs. What happens when you got like Flare and Torus and Ascendant, all these protocols shoving X28 or TitanX through X28, and then you have X28 actually turned on? It's going to get ridiculous, man. I can't wait. It's going to go slowly and then all at once. There's going to be an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we've never seen actual true hyper deflation, right? We've seen a lot of deflation and deflating and this and that, but true hyperdeflation has never, ever, in my opinion, been done before. So I don't even think like we have a general idea of what that could look like, but I don't know if we physically know what it looks like. We know what hyperinflation means. We've seen it across countries and this and that and coins and stuff, but true hyper deflation, I don't think it's a real uncharted territory.
Yeah. When we talk about hyper deflation, where do you think, what kind of impact do you think that, like if you were to try and like, if you take what we know about hyperinflation, right? What do you see the outcome being in, let's say 2, 3, 4 years of hyper deflation?
Well, I think it's going to give a lot of opportunity for investors to not only have faith that there's less coins on the market, but their ownership is going up as time goes on. So I think that's one. It's saying, hey, 2, 3, 4 years from now, no matter what's going on, I'm going to own more of this protocol. So that's a really big plus in my opinion. But as it states for the protocols, it's wild to think about because as price or as circulating supply drops, we have 30 protocols right now built on top of it, doing their thing, eating it up, right? So it's like I want to say like I feel like I know, but like Bitcoin only has 22 million tokens, right? We're talking a trillion. So it's like, what if we dramatically get into the billions or something wild like that in 4 or 5 years? I don't know what that could look like.
Especially when you add the demand.
We have like 5 trillion.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't realize you were going to keep going there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying like maybe we get to like 5 trillion total supply, like period. Like who knows, right? It could get really, really low.
Well, by day 500, $100 million coming in to actually mine TitanX can only create like 10% of what we've already seen. So less than 20 trillion tokens by day 500.
Jeez.
So you go by day 1,000. I haven't done the math for day 1,000. I have the spreadsheet. Could probably go do it, but it's like it just gets insane. By the time you put $100 million in 1,000 days into TitanX, you're probably talking less than 10 trillion. And so these minor waves that we could see in the future are going to be so insignificant that hundreds of millions of dollars coming in could only mint possibly like $1 trillion or $2 trillion. It's crazy, right? Especially because you have to factor in that the way, like the difficulty side of things is if ETH goes up in value, right? Then, and the TitanX system creates TitanX based on the ETH value, not its dollar value, right? Then then this even goes completely the wrong direction in favor of TitanX supply as well, because now $100 million is cut down incredibly by the amount of minting power it has or mining power. And so now you get even less. So it's like, man, if ETH does what we think it could do, if TitanX does half of what we think it can do, I mean, we're going to be sitting in a place that is pretty wild to think about. And looking back, I mean, it wouldn't shock me when we have, I mean, if we're already at 30 protocols, I mean, by 1,000 days in, we should probably have 100 protocols built on TitanX, maybe even across different chains, Omni chain as well. But it wouldn't shock me by 1,000 days to have 100 protocols.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by it at all. I mean, we've already seen 30 protocols being built on like, these are like pioneer protocols in my opinion, right? Early days, like get the city up, right? We need the city to bring more people and we can expand then, right? This is the playground we've created right now. And this is barely over a year old at this point, right? And a good chunk of that first year was like 6, 7, 8 protocols, right? And for the first like 4 or 5 months, it was like just TitanX and DragonX. There's like in Helios, there's like none other, so they're ramping up, and a lot of people that are building more, right? We learn every project that comes out, we take a little bit here, a little bit there, and kind of morph these ideas. And it's awesome to see. And I think we both kind of have that same thought of we kind of not advanced upon, but changed how we think a project should go and do our little spin on kind of what has already been done.
100%. And that's only going to keep going. Like when Flare comes out, someone later is going to come along and see the mechanics and take it and reinvent the wheel, so to speak, in a new way that you or I or anyone else has ever thought of before. It's the same thing with Torus. It'll be the same thing. Like, and you also have the guys that have already built. Like you've got Steve DeFi, who's basically just building. Mike Dean's even talked about openly in public about expanding the utility of Matrix. You have so many, like, I mean, dude's a freaking machine. You've got, I mean, Jake and Eric, those guys, like the majority, all the guys from the Inferno Kingdom, like Ali and Bad Sports and all those guys are machines. Like you've got a community of builders that don't want to stop. And here's a question, like when Flare comes out, do you have intentions to build anything after Flare, or are you one and done? Just to add to this as well.
Yeah, I am absolutely building more. I already have an idea that is going to be really big for TitanX. I think I have to get Flare out before I even mention it, to be honest.
Of course.
But it's going to be absolutely massive in my opinion. And so short answer, absolutely.
Well, there you go. So you got all these basically. The funny thing is I don't know a builder. There's maybe a few builders, but the majority of builders, it seems like, that are already in the ecosystem are considering or already building again.
Yep.
So I mean, like, come on, man. It doesn't get more bullish than that. When the founders of protocols on the ecosystem are still wanting to build more, to extend more, that's like the ultimate statement of commitment. Or bullishness. When you're so bullish on something, you're willing to build once, twice, 3 times.
Right.
I mean, you're so far beyond bullish.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, in my opinion, once we go omni-chain, I think a lot of people are just gonna not only build omni-chain, but they're just gonna fork their project, right? They're just gonna literally take it from Ethereum and just drop it on Base, drop it on Solana, wherever we're going, right? They're just going to be forking left and right. And that's an easy way to just bring a whole brand new protocol to an existing chain. And, if we bring any of this ethos to other chains, man, I think people are really going to like it.
Well, I mean, Solana would be a really interesting one. I know the code would probably have to be rewritten completely because it's in Rust and all that. And it's not even close to Solidity. That's its own venture. But at the same time, I mean, to think about something like Solana, it's got its drawbacks as a chain, but at the same time, it also has so many users and so many wrecked users that keep playing the same song and dance because they don't know what else to do, because they want to make their 1000x or whatever, right? So like you're saying, imagine you put fair launch, no VCs, no insiders, no rugs on Solana. I mean, that's a cool thought, man. And you never know how it's going to get adopted, right? It's not a guarantee of success, but it's a really interesting thought experiment. And the possibility of it going really well is high just due to how many users are there, so it's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, people have gotten so wrecked that, right. I love TitanX just because it feels safe, right? And it feels cozy. It feels like something you can kind of just hang out with, right? You just own it, get more, interact with these codes, right? And just hang out and relax. It's like, this is going to be here regardless. So I can't wait to see kind of what that looks like on a full craziness of a chain like Solana or Base or wherever, right? A lot of eyes. And if you kind of go against the status quo of that chain specifically, I think there's going to be a little bit of pushback, but a lot of people are going to really like it.
Well, I was actually talking about this to a friend today, and it's like, you actually want pushback. Because, if you think about how life works in terms of polarities, right? In order for this is going to be deep for a second, but I'm going to come back to blockchain, I swear. But, the world works this reality works in duality, right? You have love and hate. You have poverty and wealth. You have all these dualities, right? And so, but if you look at things that are successful, they have to be, in order for someone to love something, it has to be equally capable of being hated to the same degree. And so when you're receiving hate for something, that is your sign you're in the right polarity. If you're receiving pushback from something, you're in the right polarity, because that same level of pushback can be flipped around and you're going to have people that are going to want to receive it too. So it's like, if you can look at those things as indicators of, just where am I on that scale of polarity or polarization, and you're hitting those metrics, you're winning. Doesn't matter if it's pushback or hate.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a lot of gray area in between that, like you're saying, right? Sometimes you feel like you should be over here, but in reality, you need to be over here. And you need to feel that to realize what you do have. And I couldn't agree more, man. Seriously.
It's going to be fun to watch this journey, because right now, like you said, it's cozy on Ethereum, and even though it's still a battle sometimes to get adoption, to get the voices out and to get heard and all that, but it's an adventure, and it's cool because, all of us as a community are really doing it together. There's no one person as the tip of the spear. You can always say Jake and Eric and the guys who've been here the longest that have have built out in the open for the longest. We are the tip of the spear, but everyone is on that same front, pushing forward and spreading the word, putting out marketing tweets. I mean, it really does remind me of like what I remember seeing from like the early Hex days when people were really like pushing it all for it. This is like the calm before the storm, you know? And it's cool that we all get to be here from the beginning on this journey together, because there's actually quite a few of us. It always surprises me how far and wide the community goes. And I mean, I'm constantly seeing new videos of people making TitanX videos. And even if they're not content creators, they're just, you know, they're people that are sharing their opinions. It's freaking cool, man. There's so many different types of people that are in this community, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, from all walks of life, different places on the earth. I mean, I never would have thought I would have friends across the earth that I could consider friends, right? Across the world, and I just talk to on a daily basis. Like, it's wild to me.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a special place to be a part of to be part of an ecosystem like TitanX, where, yeah, like you said, and the cool thing too is you can meet someone, chat one time, and it's like the most bullish 5-second conversation, and the next thing you know, their brother or sister, and you're gonna hit them up again. You're gonna talk. You're gonna have them on stream. It's like, it's freaking cool, man. It takes 2 seconds to connect with someone.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And you know, we like kind of the ethos in TitanX, right? I mean, that's kind of, we have an ethos of crypto, and then we have an ethos of community. And I really think we overlook how good our ethos as a community is, right? It's people, a perfect example, right? Cullum, right when he was messaging me, he made a video and he was like, hey man, like, just want to hear your thoughts. What should I do different? Whatever. And I was like, man, let's jump on stream. I thought you did a great job. And next thing you know, he's got a project out. He streams all the time, everything like that. But it's just me, just like everybody else, just says, hey, jump on stream. Let's just have a conversation. Let's enjoy each other's company. And next thing you know, like, he has a product and a protocol on TitanX, and he puts in a lot of work, right? That's just one example of a person that just came from the community. Now he's a project owner.
Sorry, it glitched out for me for 1 second when you were saying the name of who that was. Who was that you were referring to again?
Cullum.
Oh, Cullum. Yeah, exactly. Man, he came out of nowhere and is killing it. Like,
yep.
Callum has been on it, man. He's freaking dope. But it's just to your point exactly. Yeah, it's cool how this ecosystem makes people want to come forward, build stuff, put their money where their mouth is, and jump in and build something that everyone else can take part in to help the ecosystem. It is freaking special, man. And I always come back to this too, of like, you know, it can be sometimes hard to have a standard, you know, where you can almost have we've seen it before with like Pulse Chain and different other communities where when a leader puts out or the main figure puts out this line in the sand, basically saying like, you know, we do this, we don't do this, essentially, right? And a lot of times you can see that almost get taken as a religion, so to speak, and it creates like the most hardcore type of maxi where there's zero acceptance for new ideas, new concepts. The way that it's been done in TitanX is so unique, and I'm so grateful that this is the way the ethos is build something, bring your best creativity, but follow these standards, right? Don't be a vampire attack. Make sure that it's built on top of the ecosystem. Make sure it's safe. It's twice audited. It's all about longevity. It's all about security. It's all about upholding a quality of standard. And then you can build anything you like on top of that. And I think that's just so special. Like, I mean, if that wasn't the case, would you be building Flare on TitanX? I know I wouldn't be building Torus because that would have never inspired me.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely not. Definitely not.
Yeah. It's crazy. We just have that. It's like,
yeah, man,
it's
awesome.
invitation.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, hey man, we're accepting builders. Come on. It's all good. It's immediate adoption too. And one thing we've seen is not that anything's getting stale or anything. It's that we need to up our game. You know what I mean? In my opinion, new projects need to up the game from the past ones. And I really think Flare and Torus are huge in that aspect. I like to think that Torus and Flare are going to be the catalyst. I really, if we launch somewhere around the same time ish, right? Maybe a few weeks, couple weeks, whatever, in crypto time, that's nothing. It could be a huge catalyst and hopefully bring a ton of people from different communities, Ethereum bros, like all of that stuff just into the ecosystem. I really think it's big possible. It really is.
I would agree completely. Like you have so much happening in the macro market right now. I mean, you got like a Trump presidency about to commence. You've got the market looking like it wants to turn around. Even TitanX looks like it wants to turn around. And so you're right. Flare drops, people dig it. They go in, boom. You've got your catalyst one. If Torus comes, same thing. Like you basically are at the tipping point where TitanX is begging for one thing to come out that's going to change the game. And if two things or three things come out that add that sentiment shift back in, you're right. It is not going to take much for TitanX to start ripping. And on that note too, dude, I would love to hear more about Flare. I know we spoke about it a little bit, but I would love to hear how the development's going. What's been happening on that front. And then, yeah, dude, let's dig into the game theory of Flare, the mechanics. I want to know.
Yeah,
man. And I know that people want to know too.
Yeah. So I'll bring up the white paper so far.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so kind of quick-ish note, Flare's hyperdeflationary token built on TitanX. We have 11 weeks of minting. So every Friday you can go in with TitanX or Ethereum, mint Flare, claim it on Saturday. So Inferno-style minting. But the one thing I really like is we mint every Friday, and then there's daily auctions throughout the entirety of that week. So it's mint 6 days of auctions, mint 6 days of auctions, and it goes for 11 weeks. After that 11 weeks, it's only auctions every single day. So it's a very slow paced, very fair way to, create tokens and interact with the protocol. But at the same time, the tokenomics are very, very aggressive.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask on that front real quick? So for the mint auction, kind of the phase that goes for 11 weeks, how do you see that going? Like, how do you see people utilizing potentially utilizing the mint versus the auction phase, like each week?
Yeah, so I think early on, obviously a lot of people mint day one because of the ratio 1-to-1. But with the auctions, right, there is kind of two ways, in my opinion, that it's kind of going to go. People are going to go heavy into auctions and then not necessarily go the minting route until the auctions are less profitable than the minting. So my whole thing is make the tokenomics as aggressive as possible during the week, so that when that minting comes back around that next Friday, it's hopefully a good ROI. And so I'm hoping people mint. I want people to mint, but there's going to be a lot of daily auction tokens up for grabs. So 11% of the total is going to be used every single day. So it's going to be big auctions, hopefully, during the mint phase, and then it drops to 5% after the mint phase.
Cool. So it's really so basically the protocol is really, really working to pull in as much economic energy into the buy and burn as possible. Is that what I'm kind of gathering?
Yep. So grab it in the buy and burn, and also the auction buy balance as well, like the auction pool. So one thing we did, and we'll jump to the mint allocation. So we changed a couple things around slightly. Well, the minting and auction allocation for sure, but we did 0.01 dropping every week. So it's, as fair as it ever could possibly be, in my opinion. Only dropping 1% every week is little, in my opinion. But you kind of have to reward the people that got there early on the day ones and stuff. But one thing we did, we switched up. So 48% of everything that comes in through the minting or auctions is going to be set for the daily auction pool buys. And that's going to be called throughout the whole next day, over 180 calls. So if $1 million comes in, 480 grand is buying Flare off the open market and putting it in the pool every single day, no matter what.
So this is just during the mint. So this is for all 11 weeks.
This is for 11 weeks and forever.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is going to be 48% every single day of what comes in is buying the next day. Not to mention anybody who's buying on the open market or participate in the daily auctions or anything. So everything from the minting and auction will be doing that. So 48%, and then 28% is going to be used for the buy and burn.
So this is of the
So
balance.
this is going to be.
Can I ask real quick? So is it the balance like of the total buy and burn? So each day, 48% will be used to reallocate to the daily auction pool, and 28% will be used to buy flare from the X28 and flare pair.
Yeah. So 28% is for the buy and burn. So I'll just jump down to the buy and burn. So this is the same. This is the same thing as Inferno. So Sunday through Wednesday, 4%, Thursday, 10%, Saturday, 15%, and 15% for Friday as well. So it ramps up throughout the week so that it helps the ROI even more, in my opinion. So that's that 28%. That's every time, every day it's being pushed into the auction pool or the buy and burn pool to just buy and burn the token.
Gotcha. Okay, sweet.
So 76%, that's what it adds up to, 48 and 28, is all auto minting X28. And then buying flare off the open market. So it's burning 38% virtually of everything that comes in.
Damn, that's hefty, man.
And 3 plus 8 is 11.
Nice.
Again, right. So I have 11 just sprinkled in everywhere here, to be honest. So,
love it.
Yeah, one thing you guys don't know, me and Steve have a big affection to the number 11. I don't know how that we cross paths and know that, but I was 11 in college, 11 in high school, 38 as well in college. So the number 11 is huge, and that's kind of what I just wanted to put all throughout this white paper, in my opinion.
I love it. Yeah, it's same for me. I mean, I haven't had it in numbers, but if I have it sprinkled throughout like my birthday and my name and all sorts of stuff. So I'm right with you.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, and this is the other change we did. So 8% of the TitanX, or I just say the TitanX, is directly used for the creation and growth of Inferno Flare pair for the first 4 weeks. And then every week after that, that 8% that's allocated towards it is going to the buy and burn of Inferno. So we really want to ramp up our Inferno Flare LP pair so that, the 8% was originally just for the buy and burn, and that would have been fine. We would have built the pair and it would have been all good. But this going early into the pair and then the buy and burn, and definitely based on our conversation, I was just kind of figuring out how to do it better. And I think building a huge pair and then sending it to the buy and burn will help it even more.
I think that was a very, very good move. Yeah, make that real thick so that way the bonding for any move that Inferno makes really impacts flare, and then start the yeah, dude, that's a good call. That's a perfect balance, like a happy medium of what was versus what we were talking about. So that's perfect.
Yeah. I didn't, it was hard for me to say like on stream and stuff. It's just like, well, Inferno is going to be one of our biggest pairs, and that's why we're doing it. But this is like, hey, we're making a huge effort to have a massive pair with Inferno as well as X28. So, and then 8% of the TitanX that's coming in is going to be used for liquidity webbing. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to update the white paper, is for the most part, we're going to do only the deflationary tokens as our LPs webbing. So there might be some that I'm like, it would be amazing to have some bonding with that. That aren't necessarily deflationary, because just if there's a lot of volume and stuff in the trades and bots just go crazy. So just want a big allocation towards the thickness of the LPs.
Nice. Yeah. So basically either deflationary or high volume LPs or tokens, I guess.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep. So liquidity pool auction or creation. So it's going to be X28 flare So what we're going to do is 5,000 to start with the pair with the TitanX, or this should be, yeah. So X28 is going to have 5,000 early, and then we're going to have a kind of a delayed drop. So it's kind of no sniping on the first day and delayed massive 50,000, big LP with X28 kind of after the fact, just so people aren't getting the thing's not getting wrecked in the beginning. I mean, we've seen kind of some craziness in the first days. So,
100%. I think it's an important feature.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. And then the V2. So it's a V2 pair. So everything is recompounded back into it, and it's just going to forever and always thicken up no matter what. So
why, can I ask why you chose,
is
V2 chosen because of the ability to recompound specifically with all the arbitrage that's going to happen and everything? Or what was the reason for
taxes.
choosing? It was the taxes, right? Okay. Yeah. Can you do a V3 with tax tokens?
No.
Okay.
I wish then if you did a V3 with tax tokens, it'd be sweet, because then Flare could be in farms. But at the end of the day, it's not possible. So
gotcha.
Yeah. So 11% or 8% buy and sell tax, 3.5% daily auction, 3.5% burned, 1% Genesis, and then after the 11 weeks, it drops down 2.8%. And I wanted to keep it at 8. But I felt like for the longevity of the project, people kind of like a little bit less. They want to keep, that's like mainly the profits. You know what I mean? So 2.8% will go down to 1% to the daily auction pool, and 1% burn, 0.8% to Genesis. So heavy auction, heavy buy and sell tax, no transfer tax, just in case a big whale wants to spread his stuff out. He's not getting hit with 8% everywhere. But yeah, so 8% drops down to 2.8% afterwards.
I like the no transfer tax. That's cool. That allows people to basically kind of save themselves if they did something without getting hit for it. That's cool. I actually really like that.
Yeah, I wanted to do the transfer tax, but specifically what you just said was the biggest reason I didn't like. It just made it a little bit easier, right? I mean, we're already getting taxed on buying and selling. Let's just allow them to send coins to either other people or themselves, right? It's all good.
You might actually, I wonder if you could see like an OTC market come out in Flare, because you could just like an escrow OTC way of transferring and selling, so that we could skirt the tax, but the arbitrage bots got to still do their thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the weekly mint will have 48% of the X28, and also the daily auction will have 48% of the X28. So I had different percentages for the minting versus daily auction, but for simplicity, let's just do it all the same. So everybody just knows like it's 48%, 28%, right?
Right.
But the daily auction pool is going to start with 1 trillion Flare in there, just to promote longevity. And when we were really doing the math on it, it was just too much to right away start trying to fill that auction pool to make it kind of enticing for people to use it. And with just this trillion, and it's very slow that this thing gets released. It's like over 100 days or something like that, that if nothing went in, it would still have stuff in it or so. So with no, minting, at least we have stuff going on with the auctions. And hopefully through all of that, the minting will be more profitable at the end of it.
Cool. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, because there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of pieces that we've kind of seen before, but haven't really seen them all added together, especially when we add an X28 factor as well. Like that, we haven't seen that in a protocol like this at all yet. So I'm interested to see how Flare goes. It's going to be, especially with the mint auction combination. I'm going to be fascinated to watch how people utilize those two mechanics. Because I mean, that first week I think will be big to set the tone. If people are realizing they're getting an ROI out of auctions, you might actually not see a whole lot of minting going on, which that's not a bad thing, because you get then less supply, more deflation. Like, I mean, that's not bad.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's kind of like pick your poison, right? You either mint or you try to get in the auctions. But the one thing that I really like is if the price goes crazy, then the minting is very profitable. And I want people to mint, but also if you don't mint, that's fine with me too, right? I have a 20-year, 25-year like view on all of this. It's like, hey, it's not going to matter too much long term, but I want to make it as aggressive as possible right in the beginning. So, yeah, and one thing I'll say is everything is getting hit with a buy and sell tax, right? So this has programmed in this 48% for the daily auction and also the 28% of the buy and burn is all getting hit with that tax as well. So this is getting taxed like crazy, always filling the pool, sending it to the buy and burn. And it's like if the people do it, the computers are going to do it, right? It's always and forever programmed to fill the pool, fill the buy and burn, no matter what. So yeah, just not to mention the liquidity web and the arbitrage bots, and it's just like it gets crazy when you really think about it.
Well, as time goes on too, and as the liquidity pools get more mature, right? Like this is the one thing I learned a lot from watching like PTGC and UFO and that ecosystem is as the prices go up, the liquidity grows naturally with it. And so even if you're feeding the liquidity pools, that's awesome. And as the prices rise up of all these tokens, the liquidity thickens, which means more dollars are needed to create the arbing that makes the prices all equal again. So, I mean, you could see a huge, huge benefit over time that kind of goes nuts, especially for the auctions. Like the amount of arbitraging it could take could fill those auction pools very, very quick.
Yeah, I'm exactly. Yeah. And I like that, nothing wrong with how people get the daily auctions and get the tokens out that way. But I really like minting. It's very fair. You know exactly what you're going to get. And you're like, okay, well, I could just participate in mints and then just allow the auctions to go crazy. And hopefully, right, I can mint again. Or if you're like a daily auction guy, you're like, look, I'm getting into the auctions. I don't even care about the minting, and try to game it that way. So it could be really, really crazy for the amount of people that could possibly be in here, especially with us taking in Ethereum. All of that Ethereum is buying TitanX, which then is either getting sent for liquidity pairs or whatever, or getting minted into X28. So it's like, I'm really hoping it's a big, big boost in the ecosystem from us, having Ethereum and TitanX as inputs.
I mean, I think you're going to have huge impact. I mean, you're burning 50% of 70, is it 6%? Or 78%? Yeah, 76%. So basically 76. You got 38% burn rate of all the economic energy that comes into Flare. That's pretty significant. And especially because the auctions are perpetual, if liquidity, I mean, just like there's a lot of really cool stuff that I could see adding up to a whole hell of a lot of TitanX being burnt, which obviously is a positive feedback loop. And I mean, it just one powers the other in a perfect circle, right? So, I mean, cool. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. And, it's all going to be minting X28. So we're technically not losing economic energy from that burning, which is the biggest thing. When X28 came out, I was like, we got to switch. We got to do X28 as input. And then I was really thinking about it. I'm like, why don't we just auto mint X28? We don't lose anything and we burn it all. Like, I just thought that was the perfect storm.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so nice. You just like, you don't get the same, you lose or you gain, I guess how do you say it? You lose slippage. You don't get hit by slippage because the first move you're creating is basically slippage free. You're getting a free move. And to do that buying, to get to burn TitanX, there's no extra gas that needs to be spent. It's just like you do one thing and on the back end, all that happens in another contract. So it's like, it's literally a cheat code for building. And I'm so happy that Flare has it.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. And, at its core, I really think Flare is fairly simple, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you either mint on Fridays for 11 weeks or you just get in the daily auctions. Everything else is taken care of for you. You don't even have to worry about it. You just know no matter what, as more adoption comes in, there's going to be more buying of Flare and either burning it or storing it. And eventually everything that is put into the auction pool is going to be burnt eventually anyway. So it's a very slow paced, very fair, and just kind of has a good longevity to it, in my opinion. And I love the 11 sprinkled everywhere, right? I just can't wait for people to see the website. It's awesome. So I'm really, really excited.
Well, me too. When do we get a preview of the DApp?
So I'm gonna probably wait until right as either the second audit's done or before we launch or something, and I might just release it and not even give a look at it, just because I think it'd just be so cool to. It's kind of like Christmas Day, you come in, you're like, what does this DApp look like? What is it? What's the feel? What's the vibe? And then you come onto it, and I think you're just going to be pretty locked into kind of what it is. So
love it. Well, I can't wait to see.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, I appreciate your questions and thoughts on Flare, man. I really think, I haven't really been talking about it as much as I like, but at the end of the day, right, half this stuff is like, no one's going to pay attention until they see the countdown on TitanX Hub. Truly, right? They're like, all right, there's something releasing. Let me go and look at the white paper and stuff. So
yeah, it's quite hard to build momentum when something's not out. It's really difficult when you don't have the numbers, but man, can I ask you, what do you think is like, if you were to put Torus, or sorry, not Jesus Christ, Flare into the most bullish Victor, or man, my words, what the hell is happening right now? Into the most bullish pitch in like a sentence or two possible. Like how would you word it? 2 sentences, 3 sentences tops, as bullish as it gets.
It's going to be, let's see. That's a very good question. Put me on the spot. But it's going to be a hyper-deflationary asset built on TitanX, utilizing X28's mechanics. And we're going to have perpetual auctions that will always and forever be running, mixed with a thick and broad liquidity web. I feel like that's pretty decent. I feel like that's as concise to 3 sentences as I could make it.
I was asking a lot for 3 sentences there. I could have maybe given you 5, but
yeah, it's all good. I'm gonna make this whole paragraph. That's what I'll revert to. Hyperdeflationary token built on TitanX protocol, incorporating unique auction system, cap supply duration over 11 weeks. Following the initial distribution, the protocol enters a phase of full deflation, dedicated 92% of everything to the bind, burns, and liquidity. Mm-hmm. That's what I forgot I had this there, to be honest. I've been dealing with all the other tabs so much lately that I totally forgot.
That's funny. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I wanted to hear. And then knowing that you had that as a fail-safe is great. I think both are great. I think Srey has an interesting question for you as well. His last comment there, just because it's an interesting point, only because there is a lot of auction protocols that are out at the moment. And what would you say makes Flare stand out against the rest of the auctions? Like, what really separates it from the pack?
One thing I'll say is nobody is doing a mint style and an auction style for the mint phase. No one's doing that. And 2, you'll have the let's see. It's no one's doing the mint auction style, but also during the auctions, we have a set amount ready to be put in there while taxes are constantly being added to it. And buy and burn is buying it. So one thing it'll be is it'll inflate supply, and throughout the whole week it'll deflate. Then it'll inflate again and then deflate. So technically we're capped every 7 days. That's what I really like, is there's going to be a set amount of tokens and it's capped no matter what. That's the next 7 days after that, it's capped again. So capped supply throughout the week during the auctions. And then after that, yeah. Did I freeze?
Okay, I was wondering if that was on my end. Yes, I think you did.
All right, hold
But I like it. You know, I think something else that's interesting too is beyond the launch phase, the fact that there is as a buy sell tax, which feeds the auctions, is actually quite a big deal because you're getting liquidity bonding, and as it gets heavier, it is causing more deflation, and it's also feeding the potential ROI for users in the system. So it has a value proposition long term that exceeds your typical auction protocol without having a focus on liquidity bonding, and the taxes to create your own revenue essentially for the system.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, it's seamless, right? I mean, it's just being dropped into the auction pool. It's being dropped into the buy and burn. And whether anybody buys or sells on the open market, the machines are. So you know for a fact, no matter what's really happening, that it's going to be stuff put into these balances. And I really, really like the fact that worst case scenario, the project runs great. Best case scenario, it's just insane. You know, it just is crazy with huge adoption. So kind of nice to, if it's low, right, we have a huge ability in the future once we're capped fully to really grow. And then after that, it's you know, crazy from the beginning if it's big adopted. So kind of best of both worlds.
And this is one of those protocols too, where it's like when people don't look at it, there's sometimes way more opportunity, because the way the auctions work, as we all know by now, if you're not paying attention to an auction, there is an ROI there and someone's getting it.
Yep.
You know, so
yeah,
it's just that adds to it as well, which I think is cool. And so you're always going to have eyeballs. Anytime there's an ROI, you're going to have eyeballs, right? At least to some degree.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say, I forgot to add this, and I definitely have to make this clear in the white paper. Minting, the moment the mint is done, you can claim it. But all of the daily auctions, if you got in first minute, you can claim that first minute, right? So it's 24-hour cool off on all of the auction. So it really shows like, hey, you can get in late, but you know, you're gonna have to wait longer to claim it.
Interesting.
So kind of like a anti, you know, taking advantage of the system.
Totally. Cool. I like it, man. Well, it's going to be fun to watch Flare launch.
Yeah, hell yeah. So hopefully, you know, we're going to be going to audits somewhat soon, potentially next couple days. But overall, hoping to be late January release. And yeah, we're going to be geared up, and I couldn't be more bullish, man. I've been in crypto for so long. The fact that I'm finally releasing a project officially is wild, to say the least, but overall very exciting.
Well, and tip of the hat, because, you know, most, as we might be referred to, influencers, typically launch something that's just like an ERC20, slap it on the blockchain, call it a day, market it, you know, and then rug it.
Yep.
This, this is an actual system. It's got actual utility. It brings an actual value proposition. It's not just a token. Basically, the most simple thing you could do. You had actual thought you put into it. So kudos to you, especially because this is something that most YouTube guys, most influencers don't do. They don't put a lot of thought into it. They slap a sticker on a jar and sell the empty jar, you know? Yep. So I'm excited for this, man. And it's going to be cool to watch this thing play out in real time. And I hope you don't have imposter syndrome like I do sometimes, but I'm sure there's days.
Yeah. I typically don't, but sometimes you feel it coming. You know what I mean? You're like, no, let's, you know, one thing I can go back on is how long I've been in crypto, right? And been in since 2016. So it's like, whether I like it or not, I've been here for 8-9 years. So it's like, whatever happens at this point. Like, I'm like, it's either going to work or it's not. And I'm going to continuously do this. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you, you know, saying the great words about Flare and kind of what I designed. And I think it's going to be really powerful and hopefully bring a ton of eyeballs and users to TitanX. That's my main goal with it, truly.
I hope so too, man. I mean, as with every other project, we'll see in time, but it's got the recipe. Man.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, man. So I appreciate you listening and everybody listening about Flare. Yeah, we're gonna get into Taurus. If you want to pull up the white paper and just do your thing or however you want to do it, just because I want you to be able to flow as much as you can.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let me grab the right screen here. And I'm excited because I was telling you when I first hopped in the green room that I did some updates to the white paper today to add some pretty sweet images, some charts to start to show the difficulty, because I was realizing that in my stream yesterday with Crypto Audi King, which was freaking awesome. And for all you watching, if you haven't seen it yet, man, we'll talk about it here, but there was some gems in there, and we always miss stuff here and there. So I just go watch it. I mean, just in case. But
it was a great stream. It was really a great stream.
There were some questions. You and Sheree were there, and there was a few really, really great questions. So that opened us up. But what that inspired me to do was to add some charts, add some visualization to how the system evolves over time, and really how rare Torus is going to be over in time. So because people are thinking like 1,000 Torus with 100 power creation up front, that's fine. Only 5% creation costs. You don't realize how rare and how sought after Torus is truly going to be, and how much TitanX it's going to suck in as time goes on as well. So without further ado, let's go to the white paper. I know many of you are familiar with this page already. And I can't wait to show the DApp as well, because it's going to look very similar to this whole imaging and the feel that we're seeing here. And like what you were saying too, I wanted it to be beautiful. So it's going to be cool to have Torus and Flare, two beautiful dApps. And I think there's a what's it called? There's been a number of really beautiful dApps coming out over the last while. And so I love it. I think that we're going to have a beautiful ecosystem from a user experience. So Torus, if you want to understand Torus very simply, the like 100,000 foot view is this. There's a central pool here called the Torus pool. This is where the majority of tokens come out of. You, as the user, have two ways of entering that pool, which has never been done before. You can either enter via what's called creating, which is similar to mining. It's not mining, but similar. Or you can enter that pool to stake, or when you stake as well. So this is the first time when two different actions can allow users to enter the same pool. And what we'll see as we go on is there's a really important reason for this. And we can look to Bitcoin mining for how this works. So with Bitcoin mining, what creates profitability in mining? Well, when miners attain or basically win the block rewards, right? They get the lottery number, right? They then have to compare, okay, the Bitcoin that I've earned is what's my break-even cost? And their break-even cost is their equipment and their electricity and whatever other costs go to running their whole farm with their mining equipment. And that's their point of fair value, their break-even cost, right? Their market value, essentially. And when their profits are above that, right, the Bitcoin price is high enough, they can essentially mine Bitcoin, sell it on the market, they get a profit, and they can use that profit if they wanted to compound, meaning they could buy more mining hardware, expand their farm, have a higher probability of earning more block rewards, and so on. And this does a couple things. This is great for mining, but unfortunately for holders, their exit liquidity, right? And the problem here also is if the Bitcoin price goes down too far, then you're in the situation where everyone's just sitting like waiting, hoping, and praying for the price to go up because they can't do anything with Bitcoin. Miners aren't profitable at that point. Everyone's just kind of like hodling and hoping and hoping. So this is where staking comes in. And now this is where I want you to imagine, what if you could take that Bitcoin, right, and you could stake it during times when mining's not profitable to compete with those who are still mining? That's Torus. So for the first time ever, when prices are great, you can compound like crazy. You can build your bag like absolute crazy. And when prices go down below that point of fair value, you can still take your tokens and stake, which is so cool, so unique. And I really think for the first time too, it's going to make, I hope it makes staking great again, because it's got protective measures in it to prevent people to gaming it. Big whales, protocols like TitanX can't come in. And so I'm really hoping that it's going to allow people to come in, stake with confidence, sleep better, and make their tokens earn an ROI for them no matter what.
I really like that. This sounds like it's the first time this has really been done, right? I mean, like, I've never heard of anything like that.
I think as far as I'm aware, it is. It's the first time. And this is the evolution of Bitcoin, Hex, and TitanX. To me, Bitcoin was DeFi 1.0. Hex was DeFi 2.0. TitanX was DeFi 3.0. And dare I say this is DeFi 4.0, because it's basically combining all those mechanics into one to create a full system where no matter what, you can always make your tokens work for you to create an ROI over time. It's like creating a golden goose that always lays you golden eggs. And the way you can set yourself up is to constantly have golden eggs coming out daily if you play this game long enough, which I hope is the way it goes. And the aim of Torus is to create financial freedom, wealth, and abundance for as many people as possible on this planet, so that way they can do good in the world as well.
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like an amazing ethos, and to the thought of having DeFi 4.0 on DeFi 3.0, I like the way that sounds.
You know what? I couldn't agree more. It's like if you build that is so far down the game theory rabbit hole of what makes Torus special too. Because if Torus gives you the ROI from within its system itself, meaning it doesn't need the price chart to do crazy numbers up in order for you to get an ROI. However, if you put it on top of something that can do a 10, 100, 1,000 or more X, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Then you're multiplying gains. If TitanX does 1,000x and you get a 10x from Torus, you just got a 10,000x.
That quick.
That quick from a 10x from Torus, while TitanX does 1,000x. It's nuts.
That's amazing, dude. It sounds amazing. I really like it. And, kudos on the colors too. I like the colors you picked for the logo and the white paper, and I guess potentially the DApp as well.
Here's the one thing I'll say about the DApp. It is the DApp as well. The DApp is unanimous or synonymous with the color scheme that's gone everywhere else. But thank you. I actually have if you know who Jay Gold is, he sent me an image. He's been helping me with the imaging and the colors and all this stuff. And he sent me a really freaking cool dragon orb kind of idea early on with this color scheme, and I was like, what? That looks insane. So I threw it to the designer, and he put it all together real quick. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the one. So that's awesome. And what's cool too is it's kind of a little tip of the hat to the hex gradient, which is my first love in crypto. So it's just funny how things work out. It's really, really cool.
That's awesome, man.
So now we've gone over like the 1,000, maybe the 10,000 foot overview instead of the 100,000 foot overview. Let's go and look at the some of the other overview pieces here. And then we'll get into talking about how the system works and maybe some game theory. But Torus is as simple as this. When you go to the DApp, there's an Earn tab. And on the Earn tab, there's a little toggle. And that toggle is going to allow you to choose between creating or staking. And the way you're going to want to decide typically from this is there's going to be two gigantic ROIs. You go to the create page and you go to the stake page. Whatever ROI is bigger is typically the best decision to make at that time. Obviously, there's strategy. Obviously, there's game theory. You can go super deep into the weeds with this and make very advanced decisions. But typically, that's how simple the decision-making is going to be for Torus. And that's it. You don't have to come in and have your spreadsheets or anything like that. You just come in, look at the numbers, two big numbers, and make a decision based on that as a very basic overview. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's not going to be crazy. But for creating, it's going to be similar to mining in the sense of you are going to choose between 1 and 10,000 power, and the duration, it goes up to 88 days. You basically just choose your power and your length, and then you're going to create tokens up front as your principal, and you're going to earn over that 88 days that you've decided to create for up to, right? Staking, super similar. Staking is you stake your Torus tokens, but you're paying also 5% of the equivalent creation cost in TitanX or ETH, and we'll come back to that in a second. And then shares are calculated based on the amount staked in duration. So up to 88 days, and stakers also compete with creators for pool rewards in the Torus pool. Now, with Torus, it's got one of the highest perpetual buy and burns in the TitanX ecosystem. It has, now there's 2 phases to this, which we'll talk about a little later on, but you have 84% buy and burn on Torus. You also have an 8% buy and build for liquidity to build the X28 and Torus liquidity pool. And that's huge. 84% is a massive number, and it does change a little bit in the first phase, but we'll get to that. So let's talk, unless you have any questions.
Not to cut you off, but the 8% is, small compared to the 84%, but like we had a discussion before, the long-termness of 8% is massive. So you could have crazy pairs over time.
100%. Well, and this is all for the Torus X28 pool specifically. It's not for webbing.
Yep,
it's
that's
all
what I'm
just
saying.
Concentrated.
It's crazy.
So that's eight. So of $100 million, think about this. Like, let's say, because this is a perpetual protocol, let's say $100 million moves through Torus. That means $8 million through that 8% alone makes it into the liquidity pool. If $1 billion over the years were to make its way through Torus, that's $80 million that funnels its way into liquidity. Like, it adds up, especially for a perpetual protocol. It is slow. It's like boiling a frog, where you don't realize it's happening, but over time, all of a sudden you realize, whoa, we are at a different level than I ever thought we'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because things have just slowly been adding up.
Yep.
And so, but there is a first phase, which we'll talk about, which is 28% and is or 28% focus on buy and build over the first 28 days, which will be huge. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. The supply mechanics are pretty simple. There's 2 tiers of supply creation. There is primarily the supply creating from users creating, and then the secondary is from the Torus pool. So again, when you create Torus, you're creating principal upfront. This is what you're guaranteed to get at the end of your create and earn period. And there's a lot more to this than just meets the eye. When you look over time, when you have people that are creating tokens and upfront and earning, you allow for an extremely elastic pool. So for example, with auctions, obviously you have based on the price, when the price is locked in at a certain rate, you have a kind of a capped amount of economic energy that can come in before ROI is 0, right? When you have people that are creating tokens up front and earning on top, you have a completely different setup where you can have an immense amount of economic energy come in and still have an ROI for many, many people. For example, if you take the first 88 days, you add up all the tokens, and then you say a starting price of Torus at, let's say, $1.75. It takes about $1 billion coming into Torus to reduce the ROI to just 6%.
Wow.
So
yeah.
If you scale this over time, right, when the prices are higher, TitanX is ripping, there's much more potential adoption. You could have literal billions competing over the Torus pool and the token distribution that's in there over 88 days. And that will continuously grow over time. And as it expands, you could potentially see even more, which is my personal goal. I want to see billions running through this thing every 88 days. I mean, that'd be incredible for TitanX, because that's 46% of that value in TitanX getting burnt, which, oh my God, 46% of $1 billion is $460 million in TitanX that's burnt. Yeah. We're not even at 50 million market cap. I mean, come on, dude. So, I mean, we're not there yet, but it's like forward looking. It's like, wow, if that adds up to anywhere even close to that, I mean, it's insane. So
yeah, and we really have both of us, if you guys notice anything we're saying 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years. Like, I mean, we have mentioned years tens and tens of times already in this stream. So we both have the longest, no one's longer than me. I always say, like, I'm as long as it gets. So I love the fact that you have not only thought about the short term, the midterm, and the extremely long-term aspect of Torus.
Yeah, dude, we'll right back at you. And what you'll see here in a second is I've got a 21-year chart that shows, or 20-year chart that shows the difficulty of obtaining Torus over time. So we'll get to this here, but I mean, like you said, Torus is similar to Flare, and it's designed to be here forever and to work in a way that is sustainable. And so with creation, this is something I want people to understand. So when you come and create, you could choose between TitanX or ETH. Now, there's going to be a specific amount of TitanX that people are going to be able to come in and use on day one to create with 100 power. That'll be under somewhere between 1.5 and 2 billion at this point. I'm leaning to a specific number, but I'm going to hesitate to say for sure yet. I haven't put it in the white paper, just for people that are wondering. But effectively, you come in on day one and you put in, let's say, 2 billion TitanX, you're going to get 1,000 torus if that's what it costs to create with 100 power. The next day, you're going to get 0.08% less for the same amount of TitanX, and that's perpetual. So it's always getting more difficult over time to create the same amount of torus that you did the day before. There's a lot of implications as to what this means for TitanX. And I might have to bring up an X post at some point here that I did just shortly before the stream to really show the power of this. But for now, we'll keep going here. So is creating making sense? Do you have any questions on that? Like, I don't want to get too deep into it.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. So last example I'll do before we get into some of the math here is creating for a single day with 100 power. Remember, creating on day one with 100 power for 88 days gets you 1,000 torus. On day one with 1 day miner, you're only going to get 11.36 torus. That's it. So if you're doing shorter term miners, you really got to know what you're doing. And we haven't talked about the share system yet. And that really scales with the length that you are creating for. So if you're only creating for like a day or two, you're getting basically no shares. Yeah. So you really got to make sure you know what you're doing when you're creating for short periods.
Yeah, especially not only in the beginning, but as these percentages go down later on, right? You might think it's a good deal, but in reality, it's not, so it's like you said, you really got to know what you're doing.
100%. And here's to put everything in perspective here in terms of the difficulty. So remember that analogy we talked about with like boiling the frog? Like this is exactly what Torus does. It slowly boils the frog over years and years and years and years and years. So with time, Torus becomes increasingly difficult to create. Over the first 5 years, Torus becomes 331% more difficult to create. Over 10 years, it becomes 18.56 times more difficult to create. And over 20 years, it becomes 346 times more difficult to create due to the difficulty measures in the system. So that 0.08% is like a rocket ship over 20 years. So I'll share this post I did just to give people the full meal deal of what, or where is it here? Let me share this tab. So to illustrate this, in 20 years, in order to create 1,000 torus, remember on day one, it might cost, let's say 1.74 billion, somewhere in the middle of 1.5 and 2 billion, right? If it costs that much to create 1,000 torus on day one, it's going to cost 601 billion TitanX to create that same 1,000 torus 20 years down the road. So like 7,300 days down the road. That means, and this is cumulative too. So in order for 1,000 torus to be created by cumulative users, it takes 601 billion TitanX in the future. Wow. So if we think about the long-term ramifications for how much TitanX can be eaten from systems like this and from Flare and from other protocols using X28, 50% of that number gets burnt instantly. So 300 billion gets burnt for just creating 1,000 torus, something that cost you maybe 2 billion on day one.
Wow. That's crazy. And that's what I was saying, the little change, it seems little, and it is, but long-term, it's big, huge ramifications.
Like I've been really thinking about how this might work down the road, and you might actually see pools or protocols that are there to like similar to how we saw the Maximus pool party kind of stuff, where people are creating like short pool collective like pool. How do you say it? Or stakes, I guess, over a period. For whatever time, you might see that in Torus, because if TitanX, like here's the thing, if we're talking like 600 billion to create 1,000 torus, and our supply is like in the trillions. I mean, that might be pretty hard to create. And so you might actually need to create pools for people, right? You might need to have people joining together to actually get into torus, which is nuts to think about. Or people are basically just using ETH, scraping together whatever ETH they can.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
I love that you have that in there. Like we were saying, you know, not only Torus's like goal is obviously to be a wealth generator, amazing protocol, but also to bring in as many users as possible. And Ethereum dominates the user base, in my opinion. So if you have the streamline, you don't need to exchange this to get into TitanX and get in. It's like, no, you take ETH and you get in, and you don't have to worry about anything else besides that. I think that's really simple and so powerful. It's, you know, we think it's so what's the word? It's just normal to us about that kind of stuff, right? But in reality, this is going to be super powerful, and you'll be able to use Ethereum forever. Forever. So it's like, allow the market to be irrational, allow it to do what it does, and you'd be surprised.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know what, tip of the hat to Dude, because he's the one that really put us all onto that whole idea of using TitanX or ETH. So man, I think he was in here at one point. Shout out to you, man. That was a game changer. I know, well, both Flare and Torus are using it. So shout out to Dude, man.
Had to. Yeah. Complete kudos to Dude. He not only is building like crazy, he's bringing innovation and great ideas to the ecosystem.
100%. Well, and this is what I keep saying too. It's like, you know, all these protocols, like, especially for Torus, yes, it's my thing, but there's been so many nudges by different conversations, by different builders, by different protocols that have shaped Torus to be what it is, that it's like, I almost can't call it my protocol, because it was like, it was shaped by everyone else. And then it's almost like a big stone statue that was slowly shaped. And, you know, I had a vision, and every time someone said, hey, what about this? I don't like this. I chipped off something else and chipped off something else. So yes, technically I'm the one who put it all together, but it is not me that had this idea come through. It's a collective idea that came through, you know, one human, we could call it, in terms of how it got built, but it is not of me and only me that created Torus. So I'm super thankful for everyone that I've ever had conversations with on it, because Torus wouldn't be what it is at all without every single conversation that's happened to date.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's kind of where TitanX came from as well, right? A combination of different projects and different aspects of projects all mashed into one. And that's what we're continuously pushing now, right? It's just small advancements on previous projects, and the best inventions, in my opinion, have been 2% changes to things, right? And here, a little bit better here, a little bit better there. And next thing you know, you get a crazy storm of greatness.
Yep, 100%. Well, think about it. If you were to send yourself off the coast of the States and you're aiming for just anywhere on Africa, you just pointed, maybe, I don't know, pointed towards Egypt, right? One of the more northern African countries, but you change your degree by one, you might end up in like London.
Yeah.
Right. A 1 degree shift over time is massive, and what it means, right? So it's like those little 1%, 0.1% changes are, like, honestly the most critical, because they're the fine tuning that keeps the system working as it should over time and ending up in exactly the right place, instead of just ending up in too wide of a field, right? Or the wrong place. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it, man. It's every time I get on stream, I just get more bullish on this stuff. It's crazy.
Which is how it should be. I mean, this is how this is why I think we know we're in the right place at the right time. You know, when you go on stream and you have the same kind of conversations, and the more you uncover, the more you're like, wow, this really is good stuff. So on that last note we were talking about, though, of how crazy things get in terms of the costs, one thing that I really want to push out there is, you know, when people are thinking about what's the long term, like, why would I want to have Torus? Well, think about how difficult it is to get Torus and create it, possibly earn, stake. What might happen is the staking might become a part of the protocol that is for the average user, whereas creating could be more of an institutional or corporate side of things. And which is honestly, it's perfect because then the majority of supply is in the hands of your average person. It's not in the hands of corporations. It's not in the hands of institutions. And that's from those who adopt it early. Those who get in early are going to have the majority of the supply in the system. And the people that get in later, hopefully that's mainly the corporations and institutions, are going to have to fight for the ROI and put in a ton of money, which is going to severely impact positively the people that got in early. So it's a system that's very unique in the sense where, it gears early for the user and later for the mass markets. And that's why I was saying, Torus could see billions of dollars rolling through it. That's the goal. I want this thing to be like a multi-billion-dollar asset that sees multi-billion dollars running through it yearly and still benefits the everyday user. So we'll see how it goes, but that's the goal. That's the aim and the vision.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And it seems like you said, Rand, you have the common man, individual investor, all the way up to the mega conglomerate businesses and stuff like that could potentially utilize this and band together. And so it seems like you really thought about either way it goes. And I love that.
I appreciate it. I really thought as much of this as possible out and modeled it. And I mean, all the way from the 5% protocol fee to the 0.08%, the declining to having no share rate decline, to there's so many little things that took months of fine tuning. And again, another person who really helped shape this was Jake. He basically pointed me in some of the directions that Torus is now by telling me what I was doing was some of the conversations were. It was more or less like, dude, no, something's wrong here. It's going to break. It's too aggressive. Rethink it. Go back to the drawing board or try this. And some of those conversations we had were some of the hardest because I had to check my ego big time, when you're attached to your baby.
Yeah.
But I did, thankfully. I've listened to him many, 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 many times when I was like, I don't want to. Leave it alone. It's fine. And then now we're here. So again, another person who was really huge in shaping this was Jake as well. So I know he's in here too. So thank you, man. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all the work that you've helped me do for Torus as well.
Hey, it's about those conversations that really grow and not only shape the individual, but also the project. And I truly think, especially something with as complexity as Torus, having as many eyeballs and people giving their honest opinions makes it even better. And it seems like, you realize that and you're at that point where you're like, hey, I think it's ready to this is it. There might be little tiny tweaks here and there, but you really worked it out to hey, we're gearing up. It's there. It's 99.9% there right now, which is so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, dude, seriously, when I say the amount of different people that you would not believe help shape this, I have people that I've worked with that, from a client front, when I had my cryptographic site open, by the way, it's closed now, just for the record, for anyone, you can't get anything that I was doing before. I've closed that down for security and privacy reasons to protect the people that, might have used my services. So that's no longer available, but I had actually a couple people that I came to really trust that are great friends now. But people that are they're not building anything. They're just they consider themselves the average user, but they actually shaped Torus significantly as well. I had a friend that I remember originally Torus was going to be 285 days for the creating. And then I remember I ran it by a good friend of mine, and his body language, when I said 285, he's it just showed me, he's oh man, I don't know if I could do that, because he had this reaction to it, oh no, I don't know if I can handle another 285 day commitment. And then I rethought that, and boom, here we are with the 88 days, right? So it's I know I'm kind of monologuing on all the people that have been involved with it, but it really is meaningful to me of how many individuals really helped shape Torus. So yeah, I'm really thankful for it.
Yeah, and it's something about the logo that kind of instills that as well. All of the lines rolling into each other and to the center and all that kind of stuff. So I really think that's kind of symbiotic of what not only your journey was in the thought of this, but where it is now. And I think it's just, I don't know if you ever thought about that, but that's kind of my idea of how it came together. And I think the logo is perfect with that.
Wow, I actually hadn't thought about how, because the symbol of Taurus is a symbol of oneness. It's the flower of life. It's the toroidal magnetic field. It's part of all things, and all things being a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought about that, but that's a really cool way of putting it, because it really has been a collective creation from this community. And the symbolism with Taurus is actually so much more perfect than I could have ever anticipated. So that's cool. That's a really cool thing to point out. Thank you for that.
No problem, man.
Damn. Okay. So how are we doing on the understanding? Where are you at? What do you want to know next? Because I know we've been talking a lot on some of the more specifics, but where do you want to go for your personal understanding so I can make Taurus clear as day for you?
Well, as of right now, I get it, right? I'm with you 100% on everything you've described so far. So if you want to take that next step on kind of the next set of game theory, I think that'd be perfect.
Okay, sweet. Let's do the staking real quick. So I really want people to understand the staking side of it, because again, making staking great again is part of what I wanted with Taurus. Now, in order to stake for the first time ever, there's actually a fee. So remember how we talked about with day one, you create 1,000 tokens and it's going to cost you, let's say 2 billion TitanX. In order to stake 1,000 tokens, you need to pay 5% of whatever it costs to create. So if it costs 2 billion in order to create, it's going to cost you, oh God, let's see if I can do rough math on stream. 100 million. It's going to cost you 100 million TitanX in order to stake 1,000 Taurus. So, and this is something interesting to think about over time, because what happens with this is it prevents a whale from coming in and just gaming the staking, right? Let's say someone comes in and they on day one earn their way up to like 1 million or 2 million or 3 million Taurus, right? Over time, in order to stake 1 million Taurus, they're going to have to be paying an increasing amount over time, which if they were to only stake would effectively cause them to cannibalize themselves. Now, this is a very, very huge feature, because what happens is you can't have TitanX built on Taurus. It is impossible. You need to have someone who is both staking and creating in order to actually make things work properly. If you're just doing one action or the other perpetually, you're eventually, as the system goes in favor of one action, when you aren't supposed to be taking an action and you're overpaying, and you're paying into the system and benefiting everyone else more than yourself. So it makes sure that the early adopters can't basically own the protocol forever. They have to take different actions. And this is where the idea of like Titan farms and possibly other farms coming in down the road that might give people who are in early more options to make their tokens work for them if they don't want to use all their tokens to stake or do compounding or anything like that, which is a really cool option for flexibility for early adopters down the line as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. I really, really like that. And it seems like if someone wanted to quote unquote try to do what TitanX did, they're just going to benefit absolutely everybody else besides themselves. Like truly.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happens. Like at first they might do really well. The first few number of cycles, they might absolutely kill it. But then what happens is as those fees start racking up, then what happens is you eventually get the point where they start, like you said, giving their money to everybody else essentially by funding the buy and burn and them getting not a high enough ROI, because a protocol would have to take some of its stack, use it to buy and burn its token, and then take some of its stack and sell it for TitanX in order to pay off or to pay the protocol fee for staking. And so effectively, it's just going to end up putting all that economic energy back into the hands of everybody else.
Yep.
Which is really, really, really freaking cool.
Love it. Love it.
And one of the other cool things about staking is there's an early end stake feature. Now, this is where the game theory really starts to unlock here, because at the 50% mark, you can open up your stake, claim your principal tokens, and do anything you want with it. So let's say you make a stake for 88 days. You could decide on day 44, if the prices are really high, to take your principal out and go back in and create. Now, what this does for the buy and burn is you put 5% in 44 days prior. Now what you're doing is you're taking 100% of your economic energy and you're putting it into the system. So now the system's received 105% of the possible economic energy from you that is now in the buy and burn and is able to be used to push up the price, to burn tokens, to add to liquidity, and so on. And the cool thing for people that want to do this is if you go out of staking the same day and back in creating, you're still earning the tokens you gave up.
Wow. Oh, okay. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. That's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but yes.
Think about, yeah. So to make it simple, when you take your staking principal out at the 50% mark, right? You have been earning Torus up to that point. Mm-hmm. That's your penalties as the earned Torus when you remove your tokens at 50% of your staked duration. That Torus gets redistributed to the Torus pool. Because it's on the same day, it doesn't get redistributed until the next day. It gets added to the next day's total, right? So if you were to end your stake and then create and go back in on the same day, you're going to earn part of that same Torus you just gave up.
Wow. I like that little loop right there.
It's hyper incentivized to end your stake and go back in to give Torus your economic energy to work with. So there's a lot of really cool game theory that staking has. And
wow,
the difficulty of staking is really important to understand, right? So let's look at this as the 5-year difficulty of staking 1,000 Torus tokens and the costs for ETH and TitanX. This is just the percentage increase, right? So in 5 years, staking 1,000 Torus is going to cost you 331% more. Over 20 years, again, it's going to cost you, where is it here? Like 46x the amount of Torus or ETH in order to just stake. So for all you guys just thinking about it being a compounding throwaway token, Torus is going to be very rare. And you don't necessarily want to just go and throw it up in the air to do some random other thing, because you might never be able to get that again.
And it can, and it seems like it can happen way faster than you think. In my opinion, it sounds like it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, even like the first couple few years, right? 2.5 years. Now it's 100% harder. It's 100% more expensive to gain that same Torus you were throwing around earlier. So things act very quick in Torus.
Yeah. And in crypto terms, that's a year is not even that crazy. In all honesty, it just seems like there's so much stuff going on that 1 year to totally change the entire protocol. It seems crazy. So 100%. I like that.
Well, and TitanX is only 480 days old. Look how 460, 480 something days old, something like that. And look at how much has changed in TitanX.
Yep.
You can't mine billions of TitanX like you used to. And it's only been a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Which is wild. I mean, it's going to go all the way to the point where you can only get 800 a day, which is crazy.
Mind-boggling to think about that. And that's only 2,000. That's only 1,500 days away.
Yep.
Like,
it's not even that long.
And then think about the impact of what that'll have on something like Torus, on the impact of what that'll have on Flare. All these protocols that are built on top and require TitanX or X28 in order to play ball. Man, it's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, and you know, all of that added with, hey, if you're not even in the ecosystem, you can use your ETH for Torus and Flare. So it's like, which then creates a crazier positive loop on its own end.
Yep. My God, people aren't ready for it. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be freaking wild. So let's talk about the share system real quick, just to make people understand how this creating and staking can end you up in the same pool. So shares are like a proxy, if you want to use that word, for the ability to basically have two different actions, create shares, and then allow you to enter the torus pool. So the way shares are created so that's even is the system looks at how many tokens are you creating or staking, how long are you going to create or stake for, and then essentially it multiplies the tokens you're creating or staking by the number of days you are going to create or stake for squared. So as you can see, it's 1,000 tokens you want to create or stake, and then for over 88 days, it's 1,000 times 88 squared, and then you're going to get 7.744 million shares for that creation or stake. And this is perpetual. So the same amount of tokens are always going to get the same amount over the same period, I should say, are always going to get the same amount of shares. You might think too that, okay, well, that's kind of, shouldn't there be a difficulty measure? Because the system is always costing more in order to create or stake this 1,000 torus, every 88 days, you have like an 8 or 10% advantage over the last people that were in, just from this mechanic alone, just from this staying static. So it sounds like it's not doing a whole lot, but man, it starts cooking quickly.
Yeah, I think that's nice, and it's kind of like an anchor point with the shares, right? I mean, everything else is moving so crazy. Having something that's just solid, it seems like a really good kind of safer side of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but I do like the idea of having something where it's like there's always some tangible number people can have as a reference point. That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because with the amount of kind of like nuance some of this has, like especially describing it, one thing you could always say is, hey, no matter what, you can calculate this no matter what's happening. So I really like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, and the cool thing is this graph here, this is how slow the share rate declines, or not the share rate, but the amount of shares with 100 power you can get. So what this means is, because there's an 88-day buffer essentially between people who get in on day one and the people who get out and the people who might be getting in after that cycle, it means that the advantage over time for people getting in early versus later is actually minimal and very fair, right? So if you get in on day one, someone else gets in on day 44 after you, they might have like a 5% advantage with the same amount of economic energy coming in that you did, right? And because this resets every 88 days, like you can't be in it for 10 years and just let it do its thing. You're effectively creating an ultra fair environment where there is an advantage to being early, but it's not so much of an advantage where there's disincentivization to being late, right? Yep. There's this slow decline where it's always inviting new people in. And it's cool because let's say you got in on day one and someone gets in on day 44. You're going to have like a 5% or so advantage over the person that got in after you. But when you go to recreate your 88-day creation on day 88, now you're halfway through their period. Now they have a 5% advantage on you. So it's like this game of leapfrog, right?
Yep.
So it's cool. It's really cool and interesting how that works out.
Yeah, it's a little give and take as time goes on.
Totally, which is just a unique way to play, fair leapfrog, so to speak. Okay, your turn for an advantage. Now it's my turn for an advantage. Now it's your turn, and back and forth, right? Mm-hmm. Which is just really cool. So now with the torus pool, the amount of tokens that comes out starts at 100,000 tokens on day one and perpetually reduces by 0.08%. So this means by over about 21 years, there's going to be less than 125 million tokens distributed by the pool. That's it. So you can see very Bitcoin-esque.
Yep.
Right? Massive supply inflation in the early days, and then it plateaus to basically nothing over 20 years. And this is actually even more extreme in terms of being elongated versus, actually, I don't know if I would say that over Bitcoin. I think it's pretty similar, actually. I think it's very similar.
Yeah, Bitcoin had a really long time horizon. It was like 100-something years or whatever it is, 113 or 14.
I wonder if I could go in the back end real quick and just see. I might have to, I don't know if I could do it, but I could try and see if we go to 100 years. 100 years is 36,000 days.
Yep, roughly.
Okay, let me see if I can do this on the back end quickly while we're live on stream here. I bet you it's going to be like less than 130 million. I bet. So, oh man, I hope my computer doesn't break trying this. It might not like going this far into Excel. I've never done this in terms of going this deep into Excel before. So, okay, let's see. Yeah, this is going to take a while, dude. Holy shit. Let's go to half that. Let's go to 50 years. Just because this might actually be doable. We might be here for like 5 minutes by the time it gets us to 100 years. Yeah, it's starting to glitch.
And everybody, if you're watching, Steve is definitely the Excel king. This guy has Excel sheets on so many things. It's crazy. Like half of your videos are like, hey, this is the math. Here's the Excel sheet. I'm upping it every week. I'm fixing it. It's amazing.
I appreciate that. They can be pretty messy. Like there's a reason I'm not showing this one on stream because it's hectic, but it works, you know? And I'm sure we've all got that, like Jake has said many, many times, we got that model from hell. But yeah, it works. And I just need to do one parameter here. And I think I can actually get this to work. Let's see. I think it's this one. I appreciate your guys' patience because if we can get this going, I think I'd be very interested. I've never mapped it out this far before. So any guesses? It's 124,738,000 after about 21 years. So by 50 years, what's your guess?
Like 132?
Okay.
No, 129.
All right, chat. We need some guesses from chat too. I don't know what the prize is going to be, but I'll give you a high five emoji. Okay, I don't think I can do this live on stream. There's too many factors here that I haven't considered, and I need to go. Something's broken.
That will be your next post. Hey,
yeah,
this is 100 years in the future. This is the math.
Yeah, I'll do that as my next post for sure. Because I don't know on the cuff here what I did, but I broke something in the model, so I'll work on that. Okay. It's coming.
Hey, that's math on stream for you every single time.
Dude, I know it's so funny because it takes so much longer than you think it does when you're doing it by yourself, and then you really realize how much longer it takes when you try and do it live. Yeah. So awesome. Okay, we won't get to the flow chart just yet, but the TitanX and ETH distribution. There's two last things we're going to cover here. So the TitanX and ETH distribution and the grace periods. And I have diagrams for this too, which would be awesome for everyone to be able to see. But there's two phases to the launch of Torus. The first phase is the first 28 days. And then there's the second phase, which is 29 days or day 29 onward. So on days 1 to 28, 64% of all the TitanX and ETH that comes into the protocol gets routed to the buy and burn. Now, just for the record, and I'm going to show you guys this in a second here. Actually, might as well do it now. If TitanX comes in, TitanX, or we'll start with ETH. So if ETH comes in, it buys TitanX first and foremost. Now, all of that TitanX gets transformed into X28 via app.x28.win. 50% of that TitanX that goes through X28 immediately gets burnt. The rest of that X28 goes, or all of the X28 then goes and purchases Torus off the market. And then 100% of that is burnt forever. So over the first 28 days, though, this is 64%. Now, there's also 28% of vaults called the fractal, which stores 28% of everything coming in. Now, this is every 110 days it gets released to make sure there's always ETH and TitanX in the protocol. Now, if we go down to the buy and build, because this is the second piece to the buy and whatever contracts, the first phase of days 1 to 28, instead of it being 8% like we previously talked about, the first 28 days gets 28% of all the TitanX and ETH that comes in from creating and staking. So just for the record here, if 10 million bucks comes in over the first 10 days, that means $2.8 million is going to end up in liquidity.
Wow.
So
quickly too.
Very, very quickly.
Program.
Yep. Yeah. And that means, again, of all of this, so the way the buy and burn, the buy and build smart contract works is very similar to the buy and build. All ETH gets used to buy TitanX. TitanX is used to transform X28, which means 50% of that TitanX amount that went into X28 is immediately burnt. Of the X28 that's transformed, 50% of that X28 is used to buy Torus. And then the 50% remaining of the X28 and the new Torus that was purchased is used to pair in liquidity in a version 3 liquidity pool with X28. And so you're going to see Torus grow very, very rapidly. Very, very rapidly. And
not to mention if Torus gets on farms. We're not even talking about that. We
haven't even talked. Exactly. So if Torus gets on farms, there's a couple things to that too. So let's actually talk about that for a second. So if Torus makes it in farms, what happens to the ROI of Torus? Well, there's more people that are taking their Torus tokens that aren't staking them, that aren't compounding them, but are earning an ROI. The ROI for the Torus pool is going to go up. So think about that for a second. So you have people earning an ROI over here, and you have people earning an ROI over here that are helping each other, because the people not playing over here are giving these people more of a concentrated ROI. And the people that are in the farms are helping the people in the Torus pool make a higher ROI by not participating.
Yeah. and to add to it, it's like some people could be participating in the farms with Torus X28 pair, not even knowing they're staking, or vice versa. Like people really are like, all I know is farms. I'm only doing farms. Like I'm not even looking at the other stuff. I just know it's a good ROI. So it's crazy how it's kind of like they both help each other at the same time.
Yep. It's going to be really wild to watch this in action, because even yesterday when Crypto Audi King and I were talking, I started to realize, because there's been some sentiment in the chat of people being like, I don't even know if I would create. I might just buy off the market and stake. And I'm like, there's a lot of people that were saying that. I was like, I never thought about the possibility of people just being like, I just want to stake. I don't want to create. I'm just going to stake. And the amount of buy pressure that could happen just from that alone.
Yep.
And then you add in the farms as well as buy pressure for people that want to go in and farm. Bro, like I didn't think about how much potential market pressure there would be before the buy and burn and the buy and build does anything.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And the market is as irrational as it ever could be. So it's like, even though maybe creating is the move, right? It is, right? Some people are like, yeah, I can't wait that long. I'm just buying it. I'm staking. Yeah. Like they're just like, I'm just getting in right now. I'm not worried about 88 days from now or anything. They're just like, yeah, we're getting in now.
100%. So it's going to be wild to watch this in action with so many different decisions that people can make. I mean, it's going to be fascinating. Very fascinating.
That's awesome, man. And, kudos to the flow chart. I think it describes it really, really well.
Appreciate it. I'm very, very happy that I got inspired from the recent streams to actually make things that are, make it easy to understand. Because I feel like this is finally something that's tangible. Yeah, users can actually get what the hell we're talking about for once.
Absolutely. And, this is like, you could take this and just put it on X and not even put words to it, and people know kind of what's going on. That's what I think is like so powerful. The picture describes it perfectly.
Thank you, man. I appreciate. I'm actually going to do that. I'm just going to post this on X as is. I think I didn't think about
just drop. You don't even need words. You just say, "Here, this is what it is."
That's such a good idea. That's a quick, easy tweet. That's awesome. Yep. What is? Oh yeah. So we've talked about the buy and build. That's going to revert after day 29 to 8%. But there's a couple last things I want to talk about here in the TitanX and ETH distribution. So the first 20K in TitanX is going to be transformed into X28 and paired with one-time minted Torus in V3. But there's also going to be 20K in ETH that will be used to bridge to Pulse Chain and buy PLSX to pair with 20K in Torus over on the PulseX version 2.
Wow. Yeah. And this is when we were talking about earlier. This is when I saw this, I said, I kind of got to go play around and get some pairs on Pulse Chain. I know Alien X is doing it. Dragon X is doing it right now too. So I think it's great. And the fact that you just have a initial creation immediately built into it. Like you're not even like, you're like, this is for sure going to be cross chain pollination instantly.
Mm-hmm. Really, I really wanted that. Well, I mean, I really want people to. I can't give away more, obviously, than the more than what is appropriate right now. But my vision doesn't stop at Torus. And so let this be a breadcrumb of what might come in the future. And there's a few Easter eggs out there that could lead you to understand what I'm referring to, but I won't tell you where to find them, but they're out there intentionally. And a few people have actually found what I've left out there, which is actually shocking. And so happy hunting.
Hey, well, there's people that are just, you think that people aren't really paying attention. There's people got a microscope on what you're doing. It's wild to think, but they do.
Yep. Shocked the living hell out of me when I saw people find what I put out there without any clues, anything. I hadn't even said it on stream yet. And all of a sudden, 2-3 guys I saw found it, and I could not believe my eyes. So I got to give a massive tip of the hat to all you out. I don't know how to refer. I was going to say DJs, but I don't think that's the right word. But all you who are just focused.
That's a good word. That's the right word.
There we go. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the last thing I want to cover here is the grace periods and penalties. So Torus is unique. One of the things I want people to understand is that it's the lowest risk, lowest penalizing protocol ever created, where you can come here, know that your tokens are safe, it's reliable, it is going to be bulletproof, it's immutable, and there's only one parameter that can be changed, which is the amount of the buy and burn, not how many times per day it goes off, but the amount per interval and the slippage. So when it comes to the penalties, the only thing you can lose in Torus is what you've earned. If you stake or you create, that's your tokens. Torus cannot take that from you. If life happens and you need to go away for a week or a month or 2 months and you can't get to your computer, you're going to still have what you created or staked. That will never be penalized. You're going to have 14-day window, so that way you can still claim your earned tokens. And then 7 days where it's all going to be removed equally, 14.28% per day of your total earned is going to be reduced. But you're never going to have to worry about losing your initial that you've created or staked. And I really want people to understand that, because it really makes Torus stand out in terms of its forgiveness.
Yep. And it just adds to the fairness of it, in all honesty. And in my opinion, nothing wrong with like heavy penalizations, because technically when you sign and do the gas fee and do all that kind of stuff, you are writing technically a contract between you and the program, right? And the protocol. So this is like, hey, you earn this. We're allowing you to get at least back what you created, but we're going to cancel the profit. I mean, you haven't been here in 3-4 months. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but at the end of the day, like, at least we'll give you some back.
Yep. 100%. And it's safe because
like
people,
it's fair.
Yeah, dude. Well, if someone, let's say this is cool because it could also save you from yourself, because let's say life happens and you forget about it and you come back in 2-3 years and everything's gone parabolic. Well, you've just had your tokens in a safe for the last 2-3 years waiting for you. Now you can come back and boom, your principal's worth whatever it's worth now.
Awesome. That's so sweet. I think that's a nice little advancement. Like we were saying, that 1% change, right? That little change is massive for the user.
Yep. 100%. 100%. So that's Torus in a nutshell. Now, one thing I want to talk about quickly is how the ROI works. Because when you talk about this is where you start to understand the potential of how alluring the system will always be over time. So on day one, let's say everybody goes in for 88 days, right? What you're going to have is a lot of people coming out on day 88. But the way the system operates is it removes the shares immediately as soon as the duration is complete. So let's go back for a second. How does the ROI get created? What is the ROI based on? On day one, the system is going to say, for the first user, it's going to be hilarious. The first user is going to see something like 1,000,000% ROI, because the system's going to look at how many shares are there in the pool already, how many tokens are coming out, and what percentage of the pool are you going to own. So what's your ROI going to be, right? Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So now imagine everyone goes in for 88 days. Everyone's got like 100% ROI, 200 or 340% ROI or whatever it is. And then all those shares come out on day 88. what's going to happen to the ROI? It is going to rocket back up again. And so every time people end their creations of their stakes, the ROI is going to automatically go back up and get people to come back in the system every time that happens. So there's never going to be a long period without a really high potential ROI. And so people are always going to have to be paying attention to it, always going to have to be bringing their economic energy into it over time for the perpetual life of the protocol.
Wow. That's nice. That is really nice. Yeah. It just instant, like, hey, we're taking out your shares and the ownership just goes up immediately.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
And if people abandon ship, there's higher ROI for the people that are paying attention, So it's going to be really cool to watch how that works in real time. But yeah, for the first person that comes in, they're going to see an estimated ROI of like 1,000,000%.
That's a good tweet. Hey guys, we got 1,000,000% over here.
Oh my God. That's someone's got to take a screenshot of that. The first person in has to take a screenshot.
Hey, the screenshot bounty. If you're the first person, you have to screenshot it and post it.
That's a trophy.
Tag cryptographics.
Yeah, seriously. I want to see that picture. I want to see it tagged. Man, that will be its own level of trophy of like 1,000,000% ROI. That's going to be insane.
Yeah. Well, that was like my first day in TitanX with all my miners and all that kind of stuff. I was looking at like millions on that first day because it was just the initial LP, you know what I mean? And there was no coins putting on market or anything. And I was just like telling my friends, I was like, look at this, and they're like, are you really making that much money? I'm like, no, dude, this is going to be dropped so fast in the next 3 months. I was like, it's 280 days. There's no way it lasts at all.
Yeah. But hey, it's awesome while it lasts. It's so freaking cool to see those numbers. And that's what made TitanX viral, is people sharing what you can do with Torus, is sharing those ROI numbers.
I like that. I didn't know you could do that. That's sweet.
So you'll be able to share your ROIs as you're earning.
That's awesome.
Oh,
yeah. And I totally forgot that was like a part of the virality of the start of TitanX was the pictures of, hey, these are my miners. This is the ROI. And, people go where the ROI is. And, it's nice viral posts just built in to the protocol, basically.
Yep. That was why it got my attention, because I kept seeing I got into day 3, but I kept seeing these ROIs. And then I kept seeing people FOMO out of Pulse Chain over to TitanX because of those ROIs. I remember seeing people tweeting like, is this real? And then next thing you know, we see like a 500,000 sell from Pulse Chain over to TitanX. And so, it was pretty wild to watch.
Yeah. Wallet watching during that phase was insane. And, I think we're both from both communities at this point, and seeing the amount of money going to and from over these year and some change that TitanX has been alive basically is wild. And you never think, it's like, why would you ever sell 100% out of a position to jump chain to get into something else? And people do it. It's wild. People do it.
And to a degree that you aren't ready for.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
People's clips and their bullets that they put into protocols and projects is just so different. It varies massively. With some people are like, new projects, I'm putting $100 in, $1,000 in. Other people are 50K, 200K, 500K. It's wild.
And it's so fun, because you see people sharing that stuff too on social media. Like, yo, this guy just sold 400K in PulseX and he's coming over to TitanX now. And it's like, everyone's rallying around, and it's so fun.
That's awesome, man.
But yeah.
So I really like Torus. I think everything you kind of built so far, conceptually at this point is really nice, really solid. It seems like you kind of really have thought out all of the nooks and crannies that need to be thought out. And I know there's probably a ton of sleepless nights, or at least less sleep nights as I do, thinking about this.
Oh yeah, dude. If I had lasers, my roof would have holes in it like you wouldn't believe. Like Oh yeah, if I had those
Oh
Bitcoin
man, I
laser
love
eyes.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, this is awesome, man. We're just going on almost 2 hours. So do you got any final words? Do you want to run through chat, or how do you want to do this last little bit?
Well, I mean, for one, I think this stream is an open invitation to stack your TitanX while you still can for Flare and Taurus. You definitely want to be ready because we might not see these prices for much longer. And I mean, Flare is going to do some sweet things. It's going to be really fun to watch that. Same with Taurus. And having the buying power of TitanX right now, you might not have it soon. So I would say start stacking and get preparing for whatever you're about to go into because we might not see this again.
Yeah, the price right now of TitanX, I can't believe people let it get this low, but I'm cool with it because I just am buying dips and it feels great. I mean, this, like, all of the thoughts of, damn, I should have bought more while it was really low. I've just been scooping it up at these levels, like, just constantly. So I'm gearing up. I'm participating in Flare myself. I'm participating in Taurus, right? So I'm gearing up just as much. This stream has definitely solidified that even more. And that's kind of how it goes, in my opinion.
Yep.
But yeah, man, this is so bullish.
Appreciate it, man. It's going to be fun times ahead for everyone that starts stacking now and has the upper hand to play ball when everyone else is struggling because the prices are higher. It's going to be freaking cool, dude. So the future is going to be a lot of fun. And I know you asked also, what do you want to do in terms of the chat or anything like that? I don't see a whole lot of questions. I mean, we could open it up for a second to see if anyone has any questions about Flare or Taurus. There's so much we haven't talked about. This is the thing with this. We haven't talked about the game theory. We haven't talked about so much of it, but at the 2 hour mark, I feel like it's a great place to wind down. Yep. And yeah, not to make it too long because we can always stream again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love it. Before Flare comes out, before Taurus comes out, obviously you're always welcome on my channel. I think we had an amazing conversation. The flow was great. And at the end of the day, there's a ton of information and, people like hearing it. And yeah, we got almost 400 people watching right now. So I think it was a very successful stream.
Yeah. Okay. Well, perfect, guys. For everyone watching, thank you. Make sure you're following Smooth and Crypto on Twitter. On X. Make sure you're subscribed to him on YouTube. Lots of updates. I mean, sounds like Flare is coming within the next couple of weeks here, so you guys want to be paying attention for that for any updates. The DApp reveal, which I'm super excited to see, because I mean, from the little tidbits you've released with just like the landing page and all that, I'm really excited to see what Flare has to offer on just a design front alone. So yeah, guys, make sure you're subscribed and you're following on all the platforms.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And obviously follow Cryptographics on Twitter and YouTube. We got a lot of big things coming, and this is our first projects we're releasing, and it's only going to get better with time. I mean, both of us have a crazy long aspect and viewpoint on crypto as a whole and our projects. And everything we build, I know for a fact, is just going to create more utility for Taurus and Flare. So this is the stepping stone for what we're going to do in the future. And yeah, Steve, man, appreciate you for being on, man. This was a great stream. I had a lot of fun.
I appreciate you having me, man. And it's been awesome. It's cool that we finally got on a stream together. And I'm looking forward to the next one. This has been fantastic, man.
Hell yeah, man. All right, guys. Well, it's been Smooth and Crypto. I'm your host, Maxwell Smooth. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Follow Steve Cryptographics on Twitter and YouTube. This has been an amazing time. So until next time, peace.
Peace, guys.